Everybody, we are back for another Friday stream. It's been a while since we've had an Eagles-related Friday gossip, and with training camp now picking up full speed, there is no better time to dive into this roster and just evaluate, for me, some of the underdogs that I think are going to do particularly well during the preseason. Obviously, it's an off-season of change for the Eagles. They've got new offensive and defensive schemes, and there are a lot of opportunities up for grabs, especially for guys a bit lower down the roster. For players that have maybe just come in this past offseason, there's a couple veterans actually that are surprisingly making this list. I feel like whenever you discuss underdogs on the Eagles, you're looking at real deep dive, like undrafted free agents. You're talking back through the days of guys like a Corey Clement, obviously, that came out of nowhere and burst onto the scene as a very late selection. Someone like Crayvon LeBlanc. Paul Turner might be the most obvious preseason hero. Dane Evans was one for me at quarterback before he ventured off into the CFL. I love trying to find that value. Like, who is the next preseason hero going to be? Who is the next underdog that can do a Reed Blankenship and somehow generate enough momentum to not only stick on the roster, but make an impact during the season? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I think we might get a little bit swayed first as Mark is coming in, all guns blazing with a hot take there. So we'll get to that in a minute. If you guys are tuning in on Twitter, hello, hope you're having a lovely evening. If you're on YouTube and you're in the core, guys, then thank you for your time. Hopefully you're sat with your feet up after a long working week, a little Beveragino in hand, and you can just kick back and know that Eagles football is officially now less than a week away. We're literally days away from the Eagles being back on our screen in preseason play, and that alone is enough to treat yourself, I would say. On that note, we will be doing a preseason watch along. We've done them every year, I think, for outside of the couple where I disappeared off the face of the earth. But we've done them every year. There's some of my, alongside the NFL draft, there's some of my most favorite streams to do, purely because the game isn't nationally televised. So it's not like anyone can just put on ESPN or NBC and watch the game. So we get a real conglomerate of people that come in, want updates, and it's just great to live react to plays, to spot things we might have missed. Like, there's only so much I can see with one pair of eyes if I'm watching a certain player or something. So to have an army of us all looking at different players and go, hey, this guy's looking really good, that guy's struggling, it's a fun dynamic. So if you're down for some preseason chaos, we'll be here Thursday night streaming all the action here on PSN. So Mark, Zach, and Birdbrain are in. We'll get to your comments shortly. The most important one of all, though, that has been commented so far, Liam Asoyo had a beard. Like, see, what happened is, like, I got insecure about the beard. Everyone's saying that I hit puberty, and I can't have an image that I have hit puberty as a 29-year-old man. That doesn't do my brand much justice. So what I did was get rid of it. It's still there a little bit, though. It's still there. I'm still fuming at Brian for this because I ordered a Manscaped thing and I lost the charger for it and I don't know how to get a new one. So I said this many streams ago. The beard was fantastic. Maybe we bring the beard back. Maybe I'll grow it back out. It's not going to say this will come back in like 6 months, probably. I'm hoping a couple of weeks, but we'll see. But we'll document it. All right, it's going to be our new thing as the streams go by. You know, there's like montages where they take a picture of a kid every day for like 10 years, and he just goes like that. It'll be me, but with facial hair. So maybe on Monday I'll have like a little bit of a moustache going. So it suited me. I can't believe this stream's being nice. I don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I'm a little schoolgirl just blushing. This is fun. Wow, that's my weekend made. I feel tremendous. I'm going to go out tomorrow like a new man, suited and booted, looking like prime babyface Burrow. And I might even dye my hair bleach blonde. There's that much confidence and awe around the young man now. So I appreciate you guys being so kind about the scruffy facial hair. We'll bring it back. We will run it back. Now I feel shit because I haven't got a beard. So that's good. I should have stuck with it. And talking of sticking with it, there's one player that Mark highlighted who the Eagles are going to be sticking with for this year as a transition. Sticking with as a starter for this year. We had a conversation last time out about whether or not Reed Blankenship is going to be here long-term in this defense. And my take on it was that he's in a very similar boat to that Quez Watkins was coming into this past offseason, where average just isn't good enough when you're trying to win a Super Bowl. And Reed has done a tremendous job at not only getting onto the roster as a UDFA, but earning that starting gig. But when you put him next to someone like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson or even Sidney Brown in his limited action, it's very clear that there is a gap. And when you're looking at, Super Bowls and playoffs and those big plays and big moments, like how much confidence do you have that Reed Blankenship can be that guy to hang your hat on, to give a 3-year extension worth like 18, 19 million, whatever. I don't know. I think this is a really big year for Reed Blankenship. Like, he's obviously loved in the locker room. Mark's particular comment about it was, I mentioned last week, he's an average starter on a great roster. I do agree. I love the guy. But why do we hear the argument for Reed, but not TJ a few years back? That's a very good. But others at why do we hear? Why do we hear? Why do we hear? He means the argument. Yeah. So, but essentially, why is Reed Blankenship getting almost preferential or different treatment than TJ Edwards? And I would say the linebacker position specifically has been so devoid of talent for about a decade that it's hard to quantify. If you look at someone like Alex Singleton, for instance, who was like, I loved him. I thought he was a brilliant guy. He struggled against the pass, but as a run defender, there might not have been much better. I think the difference between the two is that TJ Edwards was very easily able to come in and be the best of, in the nicest way possible, a bad bunch. Reed Blankenship, on the other hand, has broken, become a starter, and his grading scale now is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's one of the better safeties in the league. It's Sidney Brown, who was a 4th-round pick and flashed some real upside. I don't want to say James Bradbury, but that guy is a proven veteran corner with like an 8-year career that is going to have the ability and the experience to hold something down. So you even look at someone like Avonte Maddox, who's played at the slot. You look at most guys at that position, and it's hard for Blankenship to stand out. When TJ Edwards is lining up and taking snaps away from guys like Singleton and showing a more complete skill set, it's easier to I guess you see what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, this is great. But then you realize that the great is really like average at best, and they haven't done anything to replenish that. Like, I'd like to think, for instance, if you look at Devin White this season, it should be a marked upgrade over the last few years. I'm not fully sold on that, if I'm honest with you, but that's, I guess, what the Eagles are trying to do. But I think Reed, it's very obvious, like, when you look at the secondary and the changes it's gone through, the impact that Darius Slay made on his arrival, the impact that Bradbury made in that first year. Like, all right, we can all badmouth the play last season now, but that first season was very, very solid. And it was a huge jump over what we saw in the years beforehand. At linebacker, that was never the case, because since Jordan Hicks, like, who has there been? Like, Nigel Bradham. Okay, like, even going back further than that, like, since D'Amico Ryan's retired, I don't think there's been any one specific linebacker that stood out as the heart and soul of that defense. So TJ was in a spot where he did have an NFL skill set. He was able to show that and provide value for this team. But when the bar is so low, it's a lot easier to look so far above it. Therefore, he's held. Well, we've got to keep him because he's the best we've got. Like, it's not even close. He is the best player we've got at that position. It's stupid to let him go. He's on a very cheap deal. And if you compared him to most starters in the NFL, I somehow think then he would look like Singleton or whoever. So that would be my guess, at least. I hope I explained that well. It sounded like I was circling a bit there, but I definitely think, like, I'll tell you what, no, Mark's made a good point there with Camus Grugier-Hill. He was one of the OG LJ finds. And there is a video on this channel from, it would have been, 2015, when they picked him up from the Patriots, saying that this guy will be something. He's incredibly quick. He's versatile. He hits hard. Like, he's got it. And perennial special teamer, he does have defensive upside. And I did a film room on him. And someone left a comment saying, why did you waste time doing a film room on someone who won't be here by the end of the season? And one of my greatest achievements in life is just proving that guy wrong, because KGH went on to be a very solid linebacker. And I guess to loop it back to the last discussion, you could almost argue that KGH outgrew Philadelphia. I think TJ just hit a point where he got good and he was better than everyone else, but then he's going to demand better money for it. And the Eagles were like, well, we're not. You're not worth that. Like, you're better than Alex Singleton. You know, you're not out there being better than some of the best linebackers. You know, Devin White in his prime a few years ago. Okay, you know, you're not prime Ray Lewis back there. So let you go get your bag, and we're just going to play Steve over there. Zach Cunningham, do you want to? Yep. Yeah, you can run around a bit. Sure, that won't do us any damage. And I think that was kind of it, really. Bird Brain, we'll move on. Was anyone at the practice yesterday? I was, and the offense looked great. Well, I'm glad you got to experience that, because I think 50,000 fans at Lincoln Financial Field for a practice is insane. And I tweeted earlier that I genuinely find it incredible that in the space of 48 hours, the Link had, it was like 68,000 were at the Liverpool and Arsenal Premier League pre-season game. Then a day later, 50,000 for Eagles practice. So firstly, anyone that's working at that stadium, a massive shout, because I can't imagine, working an early and a late with that much responsibility to do. And second, just what a sports city, just what a city it is. And it goes every single year, whether it's traveling fans, whether it's events that come in, that Philadelphia just does have this unique aura and passion for sports that others simply don't. So I'm glad you got to be a part of that. I wasn't at practice, spoiler, just for that one out there. But I did hear great things about the offense. I know someone that was there, presuming he was in the media bit, unless he's just gone down with like his wife or something. That basically just went out and said it felt very much like it was for show. Like it wasn't like a practice where they'd do, obviously that there were drills and stuff, but it was a lot more flashy. It was a lot more trying to please the fans, which makes sense. When you've got 50,000 people there, they don't want to see offensive line hit the sled for 2 hours. Like they want to see a little bit of raz and daz. So if anything, it's great that the fans get to see this offense almost running at full speed just to put on a bit of a show and have a glimpse of what's to come. And that was kind of what I said to him, was like, well, if nothing else, it's a sign that that's in the locker, isn't it? That they've got that there. That they can just go up, throw some bombs, highlight someone like Devontae Smith, who, well, I was told was particularly impressive down there. And that's pretty cool. Like just knowing that you can go see the players do their thing. They're not like just trying to avoid injury or pacing through it and like pose for a picture here, sign an autograph there. It was very much there's 50,000 people here. Let's give them a show and just show them what we've got. And I think that was a really important sentiment for this team, especially after the way that last year ended. Eric is in. Nice to see you. Cheery freaking out. Nice to see you, my friend. Glad to welcome you back into the Chap 12. We have new Chap 12 lads. We got a few coming in. We're going to build this back up. We're up to 8 on a Friday. Look, I remember the trenches of Friday streams when we first started them, and everyone's busy on a Friday night. Everyone's having a boogie. So we'll run it back. Don't worry. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm not going anywhere again until I need a vacation or get tasked to write something that will be sold in bookstores. Yeah. Little autograph number in Barnes and Noble if you want that. So, I'm winding you up. But yeah, that's on the way. So I'll let you guys know whenever that does get published. I think it's in the process of it now. So I'm assuming it'll be in time for the start of the season, if not Christmas. Christmas feels like a good time for it. But it's not my book. I just got freelance to write for it, if that makes sense. Someone had the commission. They were like, can you just write it? Because I don't know what I'm on about. So we'll see. But that's another point entirely. Even D'Amico wasn't that great, was a bit past his prime. Braddon, Michael Kendrick, to a definition of do their jobs, weren't spectacular. Ben, don't break. I think you hit the nail on the head. And again, I think that's why TJ was so easily able to stand out, was because he was very good. Like against the run, he was very solid. But again, it's like if you eat gone off food for 2 weeks and then get treated to a nice jam donut fresh from Wawa, you're going to go, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. And I feel like that was TJ at linebacker, whereas Reed at safety is like going from, I don't know, a 5-star meal at Nobu or somewhere, coming home and having like fish and chips and being like, it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good in the right setting, in the right mood, in the right time of day. Nothing hits better. And then there's the other 6 days of the week where you've got diarrhea because you've eaten too much and it's not the same. So I think that's the difference between the two. But I guess we can go in now to the training camp underdogs, or the preseason underdogs that I'm going to be looking at. I've got 2 of them on the thumbnail. I mean, I know you can't see it now because I'm sat in the way of it. But like I said at the start of the show, there's a lot of talent on this roster and a lot of guys that are just competing. Like, it sounds silly, but this is a very, very competitive roster. Like, even at quarterback, I was going to say outside of it, but Kenny Pickett is one of the big guys from camp, drawing a lot of praise at QB2. And he's got, I wouldn't say stiff competition, but he's certainly got a point to prove. Running back, I think, is the first point I'm going to go to here. Will Shipley. First name out of the hat, Will Shipley. Obviously drafted in the heart of this year's process. Out of Clemson. Looks very versatile, like a receiving back by nature, like got a bit of pop to him. And you just kind of automatically assume that just because Saquon Barkley's in the fold, that carries are going to diminish for other backs. But as we've learned in this stream over the years, chat, assuming makes an ass out of you and me. Okay, I'll write that. You can have that for free. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. And Will Shipley, for me, is going to take on that change of pace role. Like, it's a weird spot they're in with Kenny Gainwell right now. Just because you look at his contract status, you know it's near the end of it. Like, I had a weird feeling they were potentially going to pick up Kenneth Walker this offseason. They ended up with Saquon Barkley, so I will not complain in the slightest. But the Eagles have this very refined, methodical process with running backs where they just don't want to, like, pay them, essentially. And they will only, because they know they can just get anyone on the cheap. Like, Rashard Penny didn't do anything. They didn't care. They cost them $7. It doesn't matter if the guy is a flop. You can go back further, even back to, like, I think I said this before, but like since 2015, they hadn't paid a running back anything substantial. It was all committee based. Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, 2016. I really believe Ryan Matthews was going to be the guy. Sucks that he wasn't. But it's really just going to be a case for Shipley to be a change of pace back. Like, yeah, Gainwell's been too spurty, if that's the word, too flash in the pan, not enough consistency. He's looked great in spades. Don't get me wrong. There have been games where he's looked like the next stable running back in Philadelphia to head the table. And then there's other games where he literally looks like Josh Adams and there's no in between. So Gainwell, whether it's through consistency or inconsistency, I should say, I really feel as though that Will Shipley has got an opportunity to maybe snatch some carries from him in 2024. Like, you know, Saquon's going to be the workhorse. You know he can do it all, but he can't do it every snap. Like, realistically, he just cannot do it every snap. Like, no running back can unless you name Derrick Henry. And at this point, he's 47 years old anyway. Very few have the tread on the tire to go through the rigors of an NFL season without sustaining an injury, a minor strain, like a bump or a bruise. It just doesn't happen. So, like, he'll be in there for a few drives or, you know, a few plays in a series, and then Shipley will come in. And the opportunity you have with Shipley is to do these pony backfield looks, which is where you have two running backs just either side, like split backfields, and use Shipley as a receiving threat as well as just a general running back. And I think that there's a real upside there for him to make his impact. Now, I don't know how high that's going to go, especially in the first couple of years. But the benefit is he gets to come in and learn behind Saquon Barkley. So the Eagles have one running back in Kenny Gainwell, who's nearing the end of his tenure, probably isn't going to get renewed, and he's just going to be cast off to, you know, compete for the Giants, probably. And then you've got another one in Will Shipley, who you've just got a hold of him. You've got 4 years with him now, and he can learn from Saquon Barkley, who's arguably one of the top 5 running backs in the league. So he's got a real opportunity to just be a sponge and just learn and take in and, like, research and watch tape and spend time honing his craft away from the scenes. So when he's called his number, or his number's called, he's got everything in line then to make an impact. And I really feel like he's going to be a pleasant surprise come week 7, week 8, where the team are up by 10. They don't really want to risk Saquon. It's late in the game. Shipley can come in and move the chains. That's the sort of role I see him having. For that to happen, he's got to ball out in preseason. You know, you've got 3 matches essentially where he's going to get a lot of carries, because at the end of the day, they're not putting Saquon in against the Ravens in preseason. That is just not happening. So I can see him just, you know, generating a bit of buzz. The versatile back, quarterback's best friend, looks relatively good in pass protection from what I remember when grading his tape out. And he's someone that is going to probably get the lion's share in preseason. But I want to see how he grades out against Gainwell. Like, who looks better? Like, I don't care about numbers. And this is the thing, and it goes back to Miles Sanders, where, like, Sanders would break out 1 80-yard run a game through a hole the size of Nazareth. And it'd be, oh my God, but Sanders had 87 yards, bro. What are you watching? He's so good. He's so good, bro. And then, like, he had 15 carries. One of them went for 83. The other 14 were either negative or 1 yard. So, like, I don't care about the numbers. I just want to see more, like, instincts, like the vision that the player has, like the discipline. Can they follow blocks? Do they make their own holds? Are they effective in the pass game? Are they good in pass protection? All of these traits that are going to be absolutely critical down the stretch if this team's going to make a run. Shipley v Gainwell, I think my money is firmly on Shipley if I'm a betting man. I'm definitely not. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Shipley's the first one on the list. Mark says, has tight end backup Showing anything to be excited about? Not that I'm aware of. Win says Grant Calcaterra showed some flashes last year, but not really sure about him. But it's his job to lose. That's where I'd expect. I'll come back to your other comments in a minute. I know I keep muddling them up. That's my bad. I think Calcaterra is another one, and it kind of goes. I'll tell you what. We'll come back to that because he was actually someone I was going to discuss. So we'll loop back in. I promise. Meanwhile, back onto the other discussion. Very, very good format in this show today. Sorry I was late, not trying to rehash what you've addressed, but Reed's issue is that he's a hard hitter but just missed too much. And when he was back-end safety, he was forced to stick with a guy he can't. That's very fair. I think that's very, very fair. I really believe that he's okay. Again, it's just inconsistency, and sometimes that deep speed kills him. The hitting thing definitely needs addressing, and I'd sort of like to think that with someone like Sidney Brown, I hate to say Zach Bourne, or again, can someone tell me how to pronounce Zach's name? Whether it's Bourne or Bourne or Bayon, whichever one. Probably one of the most secure tacklers, I won't say in the league, like that's a stretch, but when you look at his stats, his mid tackle rate is like 7% off the top of my head. Something like that, like very, very, very secure tackler. I'd like to think under Vic Fangio as well that would change, but again, I don't think it's going to be enough for them to take that next step. As long as Shipley has ball security, isn't horrible in blocking, he's easily RB2. I would agree with that. Swift was expected to rely more on the committee, and he just balled out. Yeah, I think DeAndre Swift is probably the biggest example of what a running back can do in Philadelphia. Like if there was ever a season for Saquon Barkley to have watched in like preparation for joining the Eagles, like he spent a year watching Swift go on like the most historic 4-run stretch imaginable, and goes, yeah, I'm going to go there because they've got like the third best blocking offensive line in the league. And this is not to come back into a Saquon discussion, but the biggest thing I can think of is that Saquon's viewed as, oh, he's been all right, but he's had injuries. It's like, well, I would have injuries if I'm running behind that Giants offensive line because it doesn't exist. You're just getting pounded, like 8 times a game. And the Giants last year ranked 30th in run blocking, and Saquon had, I believe, 850-something rushing yards. I want to say 56. If I'm wrong, someone check, because I want to know how close. I think it was 856 or something along those lines. And that was behind the 30th ranked run blocking unit in the league. He now joins the third. That in itself is going to open up. It's going to be like playing on Heisman difficulty on Madden to turning all the sliders down and going on rookie and playing a game. The game is going to look like in slow motion to him. So he's really in a good spot to thrive, I think, behind that Philadelphia offensive front. And I'm excited to see what he can do. But I will not have lead Eagles rusher Josh Adams slander on my timeline. Look, I like Josh Adams. I'm stunned he didn't make a bigger impact in the league. Like I thought he'd kind of catch on somewhere, maybe not be a lead back, but just sustain a few years. And it just didn't happen. It sucks because, again, testament to how good the Eagles offensive front is. They made Josh Adams look like, prime LaShawn McCoy out there for a week or two. Yeah, he was a solid little rusher, wasn't he? I'd love to know. I'd just have an interview with him. What do you remember about that year? It's one of them, isn't it? It's like, for me, my equivalent, hit an eagle in golf. Not a bird. I didn't hit an eagle, but I scored an eagle in golf on a par 4 from like 130 yards out off like a massive slope, and the ball just curved, hit the flag and dropped. And I will never live it down. Like I will tell every single person I meet for the rest of eternity 8 times that I did that. And that'll be Josh Adams. It'll just go into a bookstore one day, pick up a new, anime for his son or something. And the person's going to go, it's $14.99. He's going to go, oh yeah, you probably do know me. Yeah, that's right. You probably do know me. Let's just say I'm a little bit famous around these parts. And then go, oh, you're an actor. You could have played the part of a pretty big running back in my time. Yeah, you could say that. And, it's going to work for him. But I would love to know what he's up to now. I'm not a betting man to remind you about the lockdown streams. They were brilliant, and it was not gambling. It was a taxable write-off. Oh, I do miss him a bit, though. I miss that chaos. Look, I'm a lot more disciplined now, all right? We don't go YOLOing too much, sort of. I still miss my man, Greg Ward. Yeah, Greg was great. See, that's another one. That's like the perfect Eagle who stepped up in undrafted free agent, sustained a career. Like, was it 2019, 2020, where he became like the team's leader in receiving and was just like the go-to guy down the stretch for Carson Wentz. Like, he was so good for what he was, which was basically a utility slot receiver, but just came out of nowhere. he kind of defected a little bit to the XFL, came back, like was just never ending. He just would not go away. It didn't matter who the Eagles drafted, didn't matter who the Eagles signed. Greg Ward was a mainstay. He was just like a bad smell you couldn't get rid of in the best possible way. And he carried them through that era. You know, he was like the lone positive to come from that. So all the time in the world for Greggy Dubs. I'm never saying that term again. But talking to wide receiver, that's gone well. Talking to wide receiver, we do have a couple other players to mention when we're looking at underdogs this year. Obviously, Aeneas Smith exists. Very quiet camp, few drops so far. Not good for the brand, if I'm honest. Aeneas Smithy, I need you to pick it up, because, and I mean the ball as well as the standard, because I have hedged a lot of my brand on appalling receivers. CC John Hightower, Jalen Rager. That was me, wasn't it, really? Said to be the best fit for the Eagles over Justin Jefferson, and then out of nowhere, the Eagles inexplicably draft him for some reason, and then he flops horrendously. It's not been kind. The only receivers that I've picked well have been the fall of Denzel Mims, who everyone thought was going to be the second coming of Megatron, and I just thought he looked like the second coming of a store worker at a shoe shop, and then Devin Duvernay, I think, was the other one. Like, Devin Duvernay was good. I had a real thing, not a thing for, I forgot his name now. Oh, it's going to really wind me up. He went with the Rams for a bit. Begins with P, not Percy or Perry. Oh, it's going to wind me up. I'll find it some other day. Slot receiver, I think at Liberty or somewhere like that. But I really liked him, and he did all right. Receivers aren't my strong point. Okay, I'm much better at grading defensive backs. That's all I've got in this world, is I can grade corners and safeties pretty well. Receivers are a bit hit and miss. And I started getting a bit of an affinity during that draft process for Aeneas Smith. And when the Eagles drafted him, for those that were in the stream, I lost my rag. I went ballistic. I was so happy that, again, a Liam Pick was coming home. That, someone that I had in a similar grade to, I believe, Ricky Pearsall, in terms of what he can provide in offense. Not in terms of being the same player, but in terms of the same traits for what the Eagles need. He was a great fit. And I was very, very excited about that selection. What we saw on tape afterwards, when taking a real close look, was that there's just too much going on with him trying to show off, essentially, where he'd have a man in front of him, and instead of a little juke move to get around, he'd do 3 jukes, a spin, a hurdle, start doing the YMCA, and then do the 5, 6, 7, 8 steps dance, and then get tackled. And that would actively hurt the offense, and he'd leave a lot of meat on the bone. Now, I've not seen any of his routes yet through training camp. All I've seen is him running through that machine where they poke you with big foamy prods and try and test your ball security. And apparently that bit's also been called into question because he's not secure with the ball. So we need to sort that bit out before preseason, but I'd like to see him do well. But the main thing we're looking at with wide receiver is a real battle between Paris Campbell and John Ross at the minute. And they are not two players I really thought, I could have never really presumed that they'd be fighting for a starting role. I assume Paris Campbell will probably get it because he's a more sturdy, possession-based receiver, a little bit taller, a little bit more experienced. Not going to be the quickest, not going to blow the top off a defense, but he's just almost that fringe, hybrid tight end-esque player. I don't want to liken him to Jordan Matthews, but I suppose he is, in a way. It's just slot receiver, a little bit less speed and haste than Jordan Matthews did. He's not as fluid, but he ain't going to lose his route through the stem. He's going to absorb contact pretty well, and he catches balls, and that's all you need him to do. So I was thinking it'd be him and Aeneas Smith. What I didn't expect was John Ross to sign with the Eagles or go to this mini camp workout, then catch on with the team, and then start getting traction in training camp. It's been a real reclamation project for Howie Roseman. Obviously, former first-round selection, broke the record for the quickest NFL 40 time ever. We know he's got that in the locker. We don't know if it can be sustained. So I think preseason, unfortunately, is going to probably lend itself to John Ross because it's only going to take one deep catch. And that's something he's going to find a lot easier to do than Paris Campbell. So for me, I guarantee he makes one 40-yard reception and all the beat writers are going to be, oh, John Ross is winning WR3, John Ross. For me, I would much rather see 5 out of 6 catches for Paris Campbell that go for 60 yards than 2 catches from John Ross that total 103 because they don't need the speed. All right, this isn't an EA franchise. They don't need that. They've got Devontae Smith who can do it. They've got AJ Brown. I mean, it'd be nice to have. It's nice if you want to sub Smitty out and you want to put someone in for that matchup. But in terms of being your starting wide receiver 3, you're trying to. I don't know. Maybe I'll just talk myself into it. Maybe it would work. Maybe I'm just yapping. Maybe it would, because that's what they wanted Quez to do, and he couldn't do it. It's what they wanted Hightower to do. He couldn't do it. I mean, they've tried it for multiple years. Maybe it works. I'll leave that one open. I was more favouring Paris Campbell in terms of a consistent receiver and maybe a check down option. I think both make the roster. I think both are absolutely going to make the roster. And it'll be matchup specific depending on who plays and when. But I think I've just talked myself into John Ross accidentally, and I didn't want to do that. I was very, very pro Paris. So there you go. Liam, I understand I used to be awful at wide receiver, but I think I'm getting better. O-line, QB, receiver, and defensive tackle are my on-point positions. CB's like receiver for me too. It's so fun when you start evaluating. I love it. I think there is no better way to spend an evening than just sat with a little notebook or something and just look at players and just grade them based on what you think. And no one can tell you if you're right or wrong. It's what your eyes see. It's subjective. And that's what makes scouting such an incredible thing. But when you can look at college playbooks online and you can see these coaching seminars, there used to be a really good Twitter account and it got suspended. And they would just upload coaching seminars in full and playbooks and sheets from playbooks where you can just read and look at what each player is supposed to do. It was outstanding. But yeah, I think it's interesting that everyone's got got their specialties with it as well. I used to think I was pretty good at defensive end and defensive tackle, and then that wasn't the case. For me, it's just corner. I just love. There's so much in it. I think it's the hardest position to play that isn't quarterback. Quarterbacks, I think I can, but I also wanted Paxton Lynch over Carson Wentz. I also believed in Sam Bradford, and if I was to pick a favorite quarterback of all time ever, Johnny Manziel's up there for his collegiate days, not what he did with the Browns. So I don't think my opinions on quarterbacks can be taken at face value. They need a little bit of work under him. Paris Campbell's made praise in practice. He's a veteran, knows how to get open. He mentioned wanting to become a better route runner. And if that's the case, I mean, he's in the best possible environment to do that. He's surrounded by Devontae. I still think Devontae Smith, I say it on a weekly basis, is one of the best route runners in the NFL, and it is just not even close. He's so underappreciated for the work he does during his release and through the stem, the intricacies to his routes, his ability to free rein them as well and just take the wheel off and go crazy and work into space. It's brilliant. So he's definitely in a good room for that to happen. Matthews ain't got it anymore, but he was a favorite of mine. I say it all the time. Jordan Matthews is one of my favorite players of all time, just because I don't want to yap on about it again, but he gave me the time of day when he really didn't have to. I was 19 years old and I tweeted him asking for an interview and he randomly replied, followed me, did the interview, did 2 more interviews with me in the years that followed that, gave an interview with the Eagles about me when they came to London and spoke glowingly for some reason. He's just a lovely, lovely guy. Not all football players are like that. And from experience, you get kind of 2 breeds. You get the very humble, very aware, very just open books that want to talk football, and you can see their eyes when you ask them a question. And then there are the players that are a bit stone cold, it's very, you can tell it's almost media trained, where they've got a specific response and that's it, and that's all you're getting. And then you've got the ones that egos fill the room and you have to really caress it to get anything other than I'm the best thing to walk the planet. And I think Jordan being my first one really helped me interview players because he was just lovely and made life a lot easier. But enough about that. Based on the practice, the players who had first-team reps at receiver, AJ, Devontae, Covey, Campbell, Ross, and Wilson, that might be the core, and I don't hate that. Let's go through it again. So AJ and Smitty outside. Covey, yeah, I did see a lot about Covey last week, that he has been making a few heads turn. Campbell and Ross, I think, make the roster, and obviously Johnny Wilson was the rookie. So, I would say it's much stronger than last year. I think it's much stronger than last year. But there was just no depth or optionality. And it's not that it was needed when you've got AJ and Smitty who can do so much with so little. But you do need people to come in and just take some pressure off them, or to rotate in and give them a breather, or to take advantages of specific matchups and looks the defenses are giving you. So I think Covey does that with his speed. I think Ross does it with his speed. I think Wilson and Campbell are a bit more similar. Obviously, Wilson, we all thought might transition to tight end. They're built in a kind of similar way. So you've got AJ and Smitty, who both have their specialties, 2 speedsters and 2 possession receivers. And I think that's a very, very good call to have. It's a great observation, Bird Brain. So the last 2 years, Quez was not it. I feel they had a true wide receiver in, but yeah, I miss him. Yeah, he was good, Zach Pascal. I don't mind that. Liam, I don't think they want to just run a go routes, not in Kellen Moore's offense. That's also very fair. So maybe it's not John Ross. Maybe I'm back on the Campbell train. I never left. Don't. If you heard me talking about John Ross, no, you didn't. I have great fun each year during draft season between the end of the Super Bowl and draft night watching college. That's sick. I love that. That's the plays that. You're living your best life. Don't ever let that go. That's brilliant. That's all a boy could ever dream of, isn't it? Come home from work, sit in Discord with the boys, watching draft prospects. Beautiful. Stuff of perfection, that is. Johnny F. Wilson. What's up, Travis? Nice to see you, sir. Thank you for hopping in the stream. They ran a play. This is from Birdbrain, who was at the practice last night, where Covey came in motion. Covey came in, did he? Covey came. Nice. Covey came in motion behind AJ, and he ran a curl while AJ cleared the space with his route. I like that. Yeah, kind of, again, just draws the DB down, pops the space over the top, forces the safety to choose. If the safety bites, you go over the top. If the safety drops back, you go underneath. Love that. That already seems like 3 more levels deeper than whatever Brian Johnson was cooking up last year. So I will take that all day. I saw that Covey made a play in the open practice. There you go. That might have been what Birdbrain was talking about. Really quickly, guys, if you are watching this on YouTube and can hit a like on the video, it would be amazing. I know I haven't streamed properly in a while. So they go a long way in just getting us back into the algorithm before I run away. I won't run away again. But yeah, if you could just give it a little like, that'd be tremendous. If you're on Twitter, come to YouTube. The show goes live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. There you go. Yeah, it's 6 p.m. Put it on a banner. So if you want to do more of that, obviously it will be on Twitter every time. But if you want to go to YouTube and hit subscribe, you get alerts whenever we stream and post. And we've now got a point where I think we've got streams every day. So we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, no, we do. I've got streams every day of the week. So PSN is becoming, it's grand. It took a few years, but we're getting to the point where we've got the daily stream content coming. So excited for that. Before we get into cornerbacks, because I want to end the show with the corners. I know we spoke about it a little bit yesterday. But just before we get there, I think there's a really interesting picture happening at offensive line. And the underdog in the picture, it sounds like a clickbait headline. It is not the player you thought. You won't believe he's winning the battle at right guard. I genuinely think that the biggest winner of training camp so far is Mekhi Becton. And I did not think I would be saying that a week into camp. But the injury to Tyler Steen, a couple of other setbacks, Landon Dickerson's toe laceration, real quick segue, toe laceration. He stubbed his toe. They're so dramatic in the NFL, aren't they? They're so dramatic. I mean, it might not be, but just for the sake of it, if I ever get a toe laceration, and if I told my girlfriend I've got a toe laceration, she'd be terrified. She'd be, oh my God, what? Oh my God, go to A&E, quick, go to a doctor. If I told her, I stubbed my toe, it'd be grow up. Unbelievable. But you know, what can you do? Back onto the topic. I just realized how big that bottle is. Sorry, the size of that. Anyway, toe lacerations to Landon Dickerson, injury to Tyler Steen. The calling card for Mekhi Becton has been his versatility. It's been the fact that he can line up anywhere at guard, at tackle, that he was a first-round talent. Didn't quite work out with the Jets. Injuries and just general play hurt him. And he's become a reclamation project. And to come in, hold his ground not only at guard but also tackle, he makes the roster. There's not a doubt he makes the roster. But you've also got to bear in mind that Tyler Steen is still young. He's still very early in his NFL career. And you're at a point now where the Eagles need instant success. Cam Jenkins is in a bit of a different realm. right? Cam Jenkins has been around a little bit longer, handpicked, obviously, as the rumor goes, by Jason Kelsey to come through and just really, I guess, cement that spot. Like, it was never really in question. Like, there was a brief period where some people wondered if Landon Dickerson would move. Then he became borderline generational at left guard, and that conversation very quickly quietened. But for someone like Jurgens to have come in, just, yeah, easy centre, that's done. Tick, moving on. It's like, oh, okay. It's a different world, whereas Steen was always a bit more of a developmental option. And we still didn't know, even when he came out of college, if he'd be at centre or guard. A little bit smaller, obviously. We weren't sure whether that would impact him or not. So if you're going to start him at guard, he has to be considerably better than Mekhi Becton. And to put him up against Becton, who's obviously built like a tackle, he's much bigger. I think he's like 20 pounds heavier. It's going to do a lot because, again, it's a grading scale. Like, you're going to get to see not only size and power-wise, but agility and ability of, whether it's like sustaining blocks, whether it's leveraging, pass blocking, run blocking. You get to see all these things as a coach. They get to see, oh, well, how does he do it against someone that was a first-round pick, someone that has played 3 years in the NFL at this point? It's a really good spot. But Becton, with the experience, with the, I guess, awareness of the situation, has been able to come in, make himself ultra valuable by playing both spots, and come out on top, I think, right now. A couple of good preseason games, and I think he's got that locked down. So I really didn't expect to see Mekhi Becton come in and make an impact. I thought it'd be a backup, come in, compete, be the backup swing tackle, because there isn't one that isn't named Fred Johnson, who just doesn't... Look, he's a lovely man, I'm sure. He doesn't sound like an offensive lineman. Fred Johnson? Fred's a lovely name. It's wholesome. It's sweet. All right, Fred? How you doing, Fred? All right? This is my 300-pound offensive lineman. What's his name? He looks like a monster. Fred. Like, do you know what I mean? So, like, by the by, they needed a backup offensive lineman at tackle, and I think Becton has at least done that. But it would not shock me in the slightest if he started at right guard to start the year. I don't think he's winning when Steen hasn't played. Yeah, exactly. I think Steen's going to take another year or two of development, and that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. Get the best player on the field at that position. You've got one of the best offensive lines in the league. Let him learn under Jeff Stoutland for a year, because when you look at guys that have been guards in that room and have gone on to do big things without playing, it's a long list. Nate Herbig secured a bag just by playing for the Eagles for a bit, getting a few spot starts, doing all right, and sitting under the radar. Suro Peta, I know he's just obviously torn his ACL, but got a gig with the Bucks. There's been a few others. I mean, Halapulavati Vaitai was brilliant, as someone that came in as a backup, did work, got the bag in Detroit. Matt Pryor didn't pan out. That's the only one that sucked. But I spoke with Matt Pryor once, and he's lovely. So not a bad word to say about him. We're talking about the offensive line. Toe laceration sounds like a ripped off toe. Yeah. They're grim injuries, but I get why an offensive lineman, it's different. Like, it's not like a receiver. I don't know. I think anything in the NFL, if you hurt your toe, like, it's easy for us to go, I suppose, like, joking aside, oh my God, no, it's only his toe. What, are you made of glass? But you got to think, for an offensive lineman who's trying to sustain a 300-pound block that's likely pushing all of his weight on those toes forward, probably not the best in the world to play if you've sliced it in half. So I do get it. It's just funny, the terminology. That was all. But no. But having said that, Jason Kelsey played with plantar fasciitis and never said a complaining word about it. He just got on with it, which just adds testament to how generational he was. I think he's easily the greatest center of all time. I do find that mental. Like, I know this isn't about Jason Kelsey or whatever, but the fact that he's the greatest center of all time, I don't think it's that debatable. Like, for what he's accomplished, for the way he was able to churn out his career, to do it all with one team, and be a personality that's beloved. Like, you can't really name another center that has the profile of Jason Kelsey, like, in terms of publicity. Like, no one has it. So off the field, amazing. On the field, even better. And he did it with a debilitating condition called plantar fasciitis. And my mum has it in both of her feet or legs, whichever one. But she genuinely finds it hard to walk sometimes. And like I live about 10 minutes up the road from my mum, and I don't drive. So she will be like, oh, I'm going shopping on Friday. Do you want me to come pick you up and do your shop? And she'll like walk to the car really slow, and I feel bad. I'm like, I can't make you drag me shopping because of that. Like, so knowing that you are a 300-pound offensive lineman moving at the speed of sound, also being a Hall of Famer and being one of the greatest players of all time, while dealing with that, moving 312-pound defensive tackles 60 times a game, it's unbelievable. Like, it's genuinely unbelievable. So hats off. Just had to put that out there. We need to give Kelsey his flowers, and I never will not give Kelsey his flowers. Malcolm Jenkins came from CB and was marvelous. What do you think of JB being a tackler and a genius back there? I'm assuming JB means James Bradbury and not like Jensen Button. But I don't think they're the same player. I think it's a valid point you're making, but the difference is I don't think Jenkins ever really fell off. Or like, I mean, it's twice now it's happened where James Bradbury has received a payday and then fell off. He did it with the Giants. He's now done it with the Eagles. And is it a coincidence? Is it an effort thing? I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard to say, and it'd certainly be wrong to, I guess, put that on him because I don't know who he is as a person. But I just don't. I don't think he's got the skill set for it, because he's the only thing that'll help him with it is because he's not overly quick. So at the line, he'd often get pretty beat, and his instincts are just a little bit slow. They looked slow last year. I don't think they've been that way his whole career. He's normally pretty good when playing in like zone coverages and stuff, but he just looked a little bit off. Just everything was maybe like half a second slower, and that can be killer. So moving him there gets less responsibility on him. He can just sit back, but it's when he's going to be asked to click and close. And the difference between the two is Jenkins had this remarkable athletic skill set where he could sit near the line of scrimmage, he could blitz, he's got the speed to click and close. If there's a curl route, he's just broken on it and intercepted the pass. He's physical enough to jar something free. He was this weird hybrid of like an outside linebacker and a corner, and he was just built for it. James Bradbury, I think, is very lean. His tackling's always been a bit whimsical, and all you're doing moving into safety is taking the speed out of it. So now he's your last line of defense, which is great in one avenue. But if someone gets beat over the top and it's down to Bradbury to chase him down and make a stop, I don't know if I wouldn't panic quite a lot. But we'll see. We'll see. I might be wrong. He might, have a new incentive because he needs to prove to himself, to the Eagles, to teams around the NFL who will be very diligently watching him through the preseason and beyond, that he can still play. And if he can still play at safety and get himself another 2-year contract and one last payday, then he's going to do it. So maybe it does light something up, and maybe he does take a step forward, and safety is the best bet for him. On paper, I would say I can't see it doing much, but paper is rippable. You can rip it up. So do with that information what you will. Smith keeps me keeping this tradition alive with the curse-handed slot receivers, Aguilar, Rager, Watkins. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the brand because... yeah, we haven't got a good history with players like that. But I don't know. I'm still bullish on him. I still think he's got a lot of upside. It's going to take time. Like, you've got to, teach him to stop doing this yippy-dippy, flippy-dappy, fly around, spin around bullshit, because that is going to kill this team. He got very lucky at A&M that half of those catches didn't get picked off, fumbled. He left like 8 touchdowns on the board. Like, it wasn't good. Get that out. Get to work on the jugs machine, and you're in a receiving room with 2 of the best receivers in the league. Like, it's not like you're Jalen Reagor and you're in a room with no one outside of Travis Fulgham for a while, Like, I mean, I know Devontae came in year 2, but at that point, it was clearly been replaced and the mentality's different. Like, when you're coming in as a mid-round pick and you know that your role is there, like wide receiver 3, you're not being touched. You're not looking at taking a job off a veteran. Like, they're here for 5 years now. Learn from them, absorb it, learn just how they go about their day-to-day business on the practice field, what they do before practice, what they do after practice. Get on that, and I think he's going to get better. So I'm not giving up on him just yet. It's only been a week of training camp, and I will go down with that ship. A captain always goes down with this ship, and I'm a captain of finding bad receivers, apparently. So I will go all the way to the bottom to ride that down. Let's have a look. He's doing what he can to make a good team out, make himself useful and not get cut. I root for him. Eagles fans, I don't root for everyone on the team that I do not like, but I don't see it. Yeah, exactly. Like, the only player genuinely on this team that I would even rooting against is a stretch, but I'm kind of annoyed with Darius Slay. at this point. Like, I'm frustrated because it never ends, and it's every week there's something new, and it just doesn't. Like, if he wasn't a captain, wouldn't care. But to carry yourself the way he does on social media and not be aware of his platform, the influence to his teammates, the influence to his fans, and a wide audience, and just be so careless and very not selfish, I suppose, but just lack of self-awareness, it is bedazzling to me. So that's the only one where I'm like, when he's out, it's just one less thing you got to worry about. Like, on the field, he's good. I've got no problem with him on the field, but it's the stuff off of it. However, I think you're right. Like, I don't root against James Bradbury. Look, if he comes out and he's better than Reed Blankenship, I don't think any of us are going to complain if he comes in and wins that starting role instantly, you know. I knew you were going to get to Slay. All right, let's talk about it briefly. It's been the elephant in the room, isn't it? Is his number one hater that was, blocked on Twitter. Look, I just kind of explained it then. You cannot be in a position of leadership and not lead by example. Like, it's that. Like, some people are, I don't lead by example. I'm very vocal. He's not vocal. When he's vocal, he's a nuisance. His example is clear transphobia tweets at that point, and very inward retrospectives of his own play when the team's in a death spiral. So I don't really know what we're getting at with him. The problem with the tweet. So the long story short, for those that weren't aware, there was obviously the controversy over the last couple of days about the Olympic women boxing, where it was rumored that one woman just got flat out obliterated in this fight. It didn't even put her hand. We'll get to this. Didn't even put her hands up in the fight. The punch ended the fight. Like, her hands were by her side, and she just got rocked, and that was it. And her response was like, "Oh well, the guy I lost to was like a trans woman." And upon a bit of basic research, it was very clear that wasn't the case. He just had a few more. I don't want to misspeak on it, so please forgive me, but a few more male chromosomes, I think. But she's born a woman, been a woman, is a woman, will stay a woman. So, like, it's irrelevant. It's just excuses at that point. And Slade took the opportunity to find the clip of that, and obviously the rhetoric that was going around that was quite transphobic about that they shouldn't be allowed to compete with women's sports, and said something along the same lines. Now, his wife did the same thing, and they then, but I can't see Darius's because I got blocked, but they both deleted the tweet. Jennifer deleted the tweet. Then went on Twitter and was like, "Oh, what, you guys are getting so mad? It's only a tweet." My problem with it is exactly that. That it's just a tweet, guys. It doesn't matter. Like, she was, "Oh, I fell for a tweet. What are you going to do?" "I didn't know." And it's like, that's fine, but you still used an opportunity to jump on a view of someone, or whatever your views are on the trans community in sports and whatever. You took the first opportunity to jump on it to share your view of why that's right. Regardless of whether the scenario in that you're referencing is right or wrong, you still took the jump to push that view to your audience, right? Then it turns out the thing was wrong, and you're like, "Well, I just fell for a tweet, guys." That's not the issue. The view behind you pushing that is the issue. Because if nothing had come out, you wouldn't have said anything. But it could be something else. It could be the WNBA. It will come up again, and she will say it again when it's legit, probably. And that's what sucks. And it's both of them. And it's not the first time. And Zach McPherson did something similar. And it's just frustrating. Like, look, everyone's got different views, okay? And you're never going to get everyone in the world to agree with the same principles. And everyone's entitled to their views. Like, I can't change someone's mind. If someone has an opinion about the LGBTQ community, if someone has an opinion about homophobia, transphobia, whatever, like, we can try and educate as a world. We can try and educate. Same with racism, same with sexism. We can try and make things better. But if someone's got views, they're just there. The difference is, if you compare it to other sports teams where the players have the views, but they don't voice them because they're aware of their platform and it's just not something you do and they don't talk on it. I'm not saying don't mix politics with sports. I'm saying if you're in a position of leadership, know the weight your words carry and just pick them carefully. It took 2 seconds to Google that woman's name and find out she is a woman and she's in fact not transgender, to not push your agenda of this should be about women's sports, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just not on. It's not nice and it's not great. So that's all I've got to say on it. It was like, I saw it on Twitter because people were talking about Slay. I couldn't see the tweet because I was blocked. And my response was like, I'm just not shocked. Like, I'm not shocked anymore. And it sucks that has to be the case with one of the better players on the team. And if, again, you compare it to other sports, not a lot of athletes, but a fair few athletes do have views of a similar mindset because of the way they were raised, the environments they've grown up in terms of a very male-dominated industry, and they just don't share them as much, or they get educated by the team, or like they go to inclusive events, or there'll be things like Pride Night, and it's just trying to make a difference. Even if they don't fully agree with it, they're just acknowledging that, hey, fair enough, I'll partake in it. And that's all it takes. You don't have to speak on it. And that's the thing. So that's all I'll say on it, because I don't want to rant into him all the day, but it just sucks. Like, it's really annoying. And do you know what? It was really weird. So I'll say it for another time. I'll save that story for another time. But yeah, I was just disappointed. No, you're right. You don't, no need to apologize at all. I think, like, I'll quickly get to your other comments. If us fans and guys from Zero Platform can spend 5 seconds verifying something, exactly, that's the thing. And the other thing I'll say as well right now is, I don't know if anyone else's Twitter is like this, but mine has become a hellscape. Like, in the last 3 months, it is just far right. Like, I don't want to say propaganda, but it's just constant. Like, especially being in England right now, where there's riots and things going on all the time. Like, it's just far right views being pummeled down your throat. So if you are of a right-leaning opinion for a lot of these issues, there's almost a comfort in seeing someone else talk about them for you to step on and go, yeah, actually, no, this isn't controversial. I do think that. And they don't realize that that's not the norm. That is still the very out there opinion. Yeah, but at the same time, while we're talking about platforms and stuff, like, I have a platform. It's not the biggest in the world. On Twitter, I've got like 7K followers. I know watching right now, we've got 6 on YouTube and 130 on Twitter. It's not the biggest, but at the same time, if I sat here and didn't address something that didn't sit right with me about the team I cover, I would be disingenuous, right? And it's the same thing where you can go back to the Elliott Shaw Park to Deshaun Jackson thing. If I said something out of turn, if I said something that was genuinely offensive or rude or any kind of slur or racist, whatever, I'll be expected to be held accountable, to be punished, to have my platform likely revoked, and to have to really, really evaluate like where that came from. It should be the same in media. Like, it shouldn't be a double standard for media to hold themselves and players separate. So I've always really valued this platform. And if I see something that I just don't agree with, I want to talk on it, because you see it a lot where people just will not call something out because they have an existing relationship with the team or with a certain player or with whatever. And they will just gloss over things like, no, and won't talk on it. And they'll get pressed and they won't talk on it. Like, I'm very lucky to do what I do. We're in a situation where we're not lenient on any team. And I feel like as long as I'm respectful and can give a view that at least has a based, or something to be based off of, and it's not just senseless drivel and attacks, then I have a duty to do that. Like, it would just be really lame of me to sit here and talk about cornerbacks without talking about the fact that Darius Slay has been problematic for about a year now. I just want to do that, really. So apologies if that has, put a bit of a dent on the show, I suppose, but I feel like it did have to be addressed because it's Eagles news. It's something that fans obviously care about. That I'm sure there'll be a lot of people in the trans community, or even just normal men and women, that will feel quite annoyed at that. That, like, realistically, you put it in the shoes of the woman, trained her whole life to be an Olympian as a woman, and then wins a fight dominantly and gets told, oh, it's because she's trans, and you just get called you're trans for no reason by high-profile athletes that you likely respect or have heard of, high-profile names in the media. Like, it's horrible, and like, we can't stand for that as media. Like, we can't perpetrate that view because it's just not on, and players should be held accountable for it as well. So that's all we'll say on it. But yeah, I agree with that, Andrew. Nice to see you in the chat, by the way. Thank you for hopping in. But yeah, Twitter's become a mess right now. So just, Slade tries so hard to be a comedian on his podcast, but he needs to focus on being CB1. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Marino is in. Nice to see you. CB2 is Rogers. Mitchell's CB4 and slot 4. I think as of right now, Isaiah Rogers, it probably is him. Like, We'll find out. We spoke about it the other day. I tell you what, Marina, Thursday, all right, be here. Thursday night when the Eagles kick off in preseason, we're going to watch the game live on stream together, give analysis, obviously react to what's going on, and we can, as a group, look at those corners and see, hey, what's going on? Who's got the upper hand here? I can't wait for it. It's like SummerSlam in WWE this weekend. I'm more excited to see those two go at it, Rodgers and Mitchell, to see who's going to get that starting role. It's going to be so good. I can't wait for it next week. We'll get it done. People even saying that she shouldn't be allowed to box because she has an unfair advantage. Don't want to talk about Michael Phelps. Yeah, I saw that as well. Very, very valid. Like, you couldn't put that any better, really. And it's a double standard because one fits a narrative that you want to push for whatever reason. Super annoying. My entire family's far right. My son-in-law too. I have civil conversations with them all the time, and we sometimes agree. But that's the main thing, right? That's absolutely the main thing. It's like, you're never going to agree with everyone. But if you can at least understand the other person's view, you don't have to agree, but if you understand it or where they're coming from or why they believe it, then A, it's just interesting and it's a great discussion and you educate yourself more about the world and the goings on. And B, like, it's healthy because you might be wrong about something or they might be wrong about something. And sometimes the other view can help. And if you can have that in a healthy environment, it's amazing. If you're just going to lob out transphobic stuff on Twitter as an NFL player, probably not as healthy. But, you know, game's the game. And we will edit really quickly. Winners put that 100% right. Yeah, it just feels so aggressive right now on both sides. It's not nice. Meanwhile, streams are backlit and we can talk about Wawa and the Eagles, and that's all we need to do, really. And my beard, or severe lack of it at this point. And to end it, Zach says, what QB do I think starts on Thursday? I'm going to go Pickett. I'm just going to put Pickett in straight away. I really think that they're going to want to try and get the more snaps, not named Jalen Hurts. They're going to really... I think Tanner McKee is going to get most of the second half. It wouldn't surprise me if, like, Pickett gets one quarter, then they turn it over, and then I forgot the QB3 then for a second, but McKee will obviously get most of the second half. But, yeah, I think McKee will get... I think Pickett will get the start, just as QB2 and someone that's been hot in camp. Get him in early, rally the troops. He's a former starter, set the tone. You don't want, inexperienced McKee going in a bit early and a bit shaky. Set the tone. Set the tone for the offense. Work with the starters. Make a few positive drives. Lift that team up. And then let the rest of the guys go in. Yeah, someone I can agree with. Podcasting while being an active pro athlete, probably not a good idea. It's difficult. But then some work. You look at, like, Travis and Jason Kelsey. Like, it can work. You've just got to be aware. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's a tough business, media, like, just in general, because the spotlight's on you anyway. So if you misstep or you say something that is a bit confrontational or controversial, it's gonna get backlash, and it comes with the territory. And I think some people just don't realize the size of the platform they have and the impact the words have. And I think that's all it is. Like, I don't think it's a shot at Darius. I don't think he's a bad person. I'll say that. Like, I don't dislike him. I'm just disappointed because I expect better leadership from a captain on the football team I cover and that I've followed for 9 years and that my business was built on, Like, I expect someone to carry themselves in the same way that Jalen does, or Devontae does, or AJ does. I'm not asking for miracles. Just don't be transphobic. I think starters will get a series. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Realistically, the team's too good. And if someone like Smitty went down with a torn ACL in preseason, it's not worth it for the 2 reps, is it? It's not worth it, I don't think. Kenny's going to get 1 quarter. McKee will get 2. Finish with Will Greer. That's the other one. Will Greer. Super Will Greer. West Virginia's finest. Can't wait to have CJ, GJ, Reed, DeJean, Davis, and D White to make their mark and talent. It's an exciting time. It's a very, very exciting time. And on that note, I've got to love you and leave you because I'm up very early tomorrow. Wholesome story. My brother has just got his handicap in golf. And our local club that we play at is having a team competition where it's foursomes for those that are golfers. So me and my brother can play together as a team, which is pretty cool. Just us 2 in a pair. And that's really wholesome. So we'll be doing that at like 9 a.m. tomorrow. So I need to get some rest. But I appreciate you all hanging out, guys, on this Friday night. Thank you for indulging all my Eagles opinions and chaos. If you enjoyed the video and the stream, if you could leave a like, that would be absolutely amazing. If not, don't worry about it. I will take it very personally. I'll actually see you tomorrow before we go. I'll see you tomorrow morning. 11:30 in the morning. Me and Brian are going to be doing a new weekly Eagle show on a Saturday just to wake you up in the morning. You know, get some bacon and muffins and some eggs, get yourself a nice little coffee, and we're going to sit down and talk some birds on a Saturday for an hour just to get you ready for the weekend. So Saturday morning, 11:30, I'll see you there. If you're not there for that, have an amazing weekend. I'll see you Monday, where we'll go over the latest from training camp and obviously preview the upcoming preseason game. You guys have been amazing. I appreciate all of you. Have the best weekend. I'll see you soon.